Hey, so yesterday when I got home from work, sat down, had dinner, and then afterwards I got a text from my son. He had screenshotted a comment made about me. So David L. Gray invited me to a live stream on Tuesday, May 7th, 5 o'clock. Check it out. We're going live. I'll be on his channel. And he wanted to get my opinion why I believe that Protestantism is wrong and Donald Trump is right, which I'm really excited about. Two topics I'm very interested in. So it should be a good show to watch. And not that they're connected. You know, Donald Trump is a Protestant. I think he grew up in a Presbyterian church, if I'm not mistaken. The First Lady, Melania, is a Catholic. But they're two separate subjects. We're going to be talking about religion and politics. But the comment was on my video that he had posted. David L. Gray had posted it on his community board. And, you know, he announced I'll be on May 7th on a live stream. And someone wrote, Rob's a good guy, but he mimics Michael Lofton and John Edwards. I'm paraphrasing. You know, I read the comment yesterday, but basically he was saying I copy Michael Lofton and John Edwards. So at first, I didn't realize who John Edwards was. But then I commented and I was like, oh, wait a minute, he's talking about John, my buddy John from Catholic for Rednecks. So I edited the comment, and I'm going to tell you what I wrote and why I wrote it in a moment. But then this morning, I got up, getting ready for work, and I noticed a comment on a post I put. So a subscriber of mine sent me an email with a post from, I think it was Pope Pius the 11th, maybe, or Pope Pius the 9th, I forget. I think it might have said something about the Jews being our elder brothers. It was something positive about Jewish people. So I posted it. And then someone commented, did you post this in response to Tim Gordon's post? So I'll address that first, and then we'll get to the Michael Lofton and Catholic for Rednecks thing. So I wrote, no, I don't even know what Tim Gordon posted, you know? And I still have, you know, I looked, when he said that, I looked and I seen he did a video yesterday about Catholics' view of the Jewish state, I think. But, you know, I had to get ready for work. And, you know, I got a few minutes in between stops here that I could do a quick video, but I don't have time to watch a video and do a video, so I chose to do a video. So I'm not even sure what he wrote or what he said, you know, in the video, to be honest with you. But in all fairness, I do know Tim Gordon. He was one of my first live. I think my first live guest was Devin Rose. After I read his phenomenal book, Devin Rose, he's got a couple of really good books. I forgot the one. I forgot the name of the book that I read though. But Devin Rose, check out Devin Rose, a great apologist, Devin Rose. So I had him live, and then I had Tim Gordon live twice. They were like my first 3 live shows. And I like Tim Gordon as a friend. You know, I talked to him a couple times on the phone. We never hung out. You know, he was living in California at the time. Now I think he moved, but he was living in California at the time. But we talked, and I got his books on America. I thought were really good. So anyway, politics, we agreed. And then I had him on because he was fired for calling out Black Lives Marxists for what they were, the Marxists, and he was on point. He was the first person I heard speak this truth, and he got fired. So I had him on about that. Then I had him on about theology, and we disagree on a lot of stuff, but have no bad feelings towards him. I think he's sincere, you know. I don't think he's a grifter. And I don't think he's bought off by the SSPX or anybody like some of these guys are. I just think he has a strong opinions, and he says them. But anyway, but on the Jewish state, I have no idea where he stands. The reason I posted that, and the reason my subscriber sent me that, was because of all the anti-Semitism on these colleges' campuses. And I made a video a couple of weeks ago why that is, you know. These Muslim countries donated over $8 billion to Ivy League schools. So you think they're not getting something for their money? They're getting anti-Semite professors teaching the kids. That's what they're getting for their money. Just like communist China donated over $1 billion to these Ivy League schools. That was what my video was about. So we're getting Marxist professors in there. You know, Barack Obama says his favorite professors were the Marxists. His favorite thing to do on a Friday night would go to the Marxist rallies on campus. So for the past 50 years, there's been a heavy Marxist influence on our college students. This is why they're so dumb. They're like useful idiots for the commies. But also anti-Jewish thought is pushed. Anti-Semitism is pushed heavily. This is why you see these anti-Semites. Can you imagine? You know what's going on these college campuses? College professors who are Jewish aren't allowed to enter. College professors who are Jewish aren't allowed to enter. They're being stopped by these radical anti-Semite students. These are students. And students aren't allowed to go in. Can you imagine if these were black people and they were being blocked by white supremacists? This wouldn't be tolerated for a second. But the Biden administration is tolerating it. All the liberals are making excuses because they're full of anti-Semites in the Democrat Party, and Biden needs this voting bloc. So, you know, he's kind of playing both sides of the fence. He knows he's got to support Israel. I mean, if Israel falls, we're screwed. So he knows he's got to support them, but he's not giving them full support. And this is what politicians do. This is how they killed us in Vietnam. These politicians, you know, trying to straddle the fence politically, you know. So I've been pretty outspoken saying we need to stand with Israel, because what I'm seeing, I'm talking from a political standpoint, what's best for America, what's just morally right as Christians. They're trying to convince people this is a war between the state of Israel and innocent Palestinian children. That's not the war. Just like on 9/11, when we were attacked by Al-Qaeda, the war wasn't against innocent Afghanistan children. The war was against these savages, the ISIS terrorists. Well, Hamas, who is even more vicious, worse savages than Al-Qaeda and ISIS combined, invaded Israel, beheaded infants. Just think about it. They decapitated little babies in front of their parents, took other babies and put them in ovens and turned the oven on, raped little boys, raped little girls in front of the parents, and then killed the parents. And then took hundreds of hostages, and some of them were Americans, and they're still there. Dude, if Canada came into America and did this, we'd have freaking nuked them. We would have destroyed them. There would be no talk about, oh, you know, innocent lives. No, we would have freaking destroyed them. You give us our freaking hostages today, or we're annihilating you. There would have been no questions. But because it's Israel, oh, no, Israel's bad. You know, we got this Jewish sentiment. You know, in the Afghan war, and it was an average war, for every soldier we killed 5 civilians, not on purpose. We tried our best not to. Israel's doing even a better job. They're only killing 2 civilians for every soldier. It's not good, but this is war. And Hamas declared war on Israel. It wasn't vice versa. And every time Israel offers a ceasefire, Hamas says no. Every time Israel says, you know, give us our hostages, they say no. So every innocent child that got killed is a tragedy, but it's Hamas's fault. It's Hamas's fault. They're wicked, demonically possessed terrorists, and they need to be defeated. And war is ugly. In every war, civilians die. It's sad, but this is what Hamas wanted. And unlike Israel, who's taken great pains and efforts to avoid hitting civilians, Hamas wants civilians dead. They put their military facilities in hospitals. They use babies and women as human shields. They want this. This is what they do. I mean, unless you had your head under a stone and don't know what terrorists do, you know, for the past 20 years, this is what terrorists do. And Hamas are the worst terrorists. So I'm talking politically. We got to support Israel. They supported us after we were savagely attacked by wicked, demonic terrorists. So we need to support them. So it's politically. I've been getting a lot of like anti-Semitic stuff from like so-called Catholics. Now, I know the SSPX is very anti-Semitic. Remember, they had that big funeral for that admitted Nazi, unrepentant Nazi, and I think it was in France, and the people, or it might have been Italy, or the people protested it. So they didn't have it. You know, the Pope said, you know, you can give them a private funeral, but nothing public. And of course, the SSPX they were founded on rebellion. So everything they do is rebellious. So they thumbed their nose and gave the finger to the Pope and said, no, we're going to have a big public ceremony to celebrate the life of this Nazi. But the actual government didn't let them have it because the decent people in the town protested that they were going to celebrate a Nazi. And then there was that other Nazi guy, the SSPX, got caught hiding for like 10 years. Lofton was hiding him, and Lofton said, oh, I didn't know he was here, like in my backyard for 20 years. Lofton, another nice guy, another rebellious man that Samuel talks about when he says rebellion is the sin of witchcraft. But anyway, so we know the SSPX is full of white supremacists and racists and anti-Semites. That's a given. But I'm getting it from people that don't identify as SSPX, just regular Catholics. And I think they don't realize they're getting influenced. I heard Taylor Marshall give, like, right at the beginning of the war, it kind of sounded anti-Semitic, like a little short video he did about Israel. I was like, So I think a lot of people are getting confused at the Catholic Church's stance on Israel. So Catholic Church hates war, The best would be a ceasefire, but Hamas keeps refusing ceasefires every time Israel offers one. And the Pope is pushing for a ceasefire, and that's what you should do. We should all be pushing for peace, and all the Hamas got to do is release our Americans and our Israeli hostages that they're torturing and raping. And there would be peace. It would be they could end it tomorrow, but they don't want to. They don't want to. But as far as the church goes, when I was Protestant, that was one of the arguments we used to use about the Catholic Church. We say, oh, the Pope was in collusion with Hitler, Jack Chick publication. If you're not familiar with Chick publication, just watch Taylor Marshall. He uses a lot of the Chick publication propaganda that Jack Chick used to use. But Chick publication would tell us, oh, the Catholic Church was in collusion with the Pope during World War II. And then when I did my own research, I found out that the Pope at the time was given the greatest civilian honor anybody could get from Israel. The state of Israel gave him a medal. There's civilian medals. If you remember, Trump gave Rush Limbaugh a medal. There's civilian medals you can get. You don't have to be in the military to get a medal from the president. And the state of Israel gave our Pope the highest civilian medal because our Pope and the Catholic Church was responsible for hiding and saving 900,000 Jews during the Holocaust. 900,000 Jews, more than Schindler. And many Catholic priests died protecting the Jews. Many Catholic nuns died protecting the Jews. That's why the chief rabbi, Rabbi Zoli, in Rome, converted to Catholicism, because he's seen the love of the Catholic Church for his people. So what these people do, these Catholics, especially SSPX and, any schismatic, the way they become schismatics and justifies their schism from the church today is they'll take an old Pope out of context or a previous council out of context or a saint out of context, use it to justify their own schism. And they're doing the same thing with their hate filled comments about Jewish people. They're taking popes out of context. So that's why I put up a Pope who said something nice about the Jews. And Pope St. John Paul II said, the Jews are our elder brothers. Remember, Father Abraham, he's the father of the Jews and the Christians. Father Abraham. And Jesus said, salvation comes from the Jews. Now, the Jews rejected Jesus, right? So they need to come through Jesus just like everybody else. They're lost just like everybody who rejects Jesus. If you're Jewish, if you're Muslim, if you're atheist, if you reject Jesus, you're lost. You need to come to Jesus. Okay? But they're still our elder brothers, and without them, we would have never had salvation. Jesus and Mary and Joseph were Jewish. All the apostles were Jewish. Salvation came from the Jews. So we have a respect and an honor and a thankfulness to the Jews. And we share Judeo-Christian values, Jewish Christian values. We both believe the Old Testament. They just reject the New. But we have many of the same, Judeo-Christian values is what this country is founded on, America. So, yes, the Jews need to convert to Christianity to be saved, and we should be doing everything we can to help them. But we should respect them and love them for what they gave us. They gave us our Lord and Savior. They gave us salvation. Salvation is from the Jews. Jesus himself said that. So they should have a special place in every Christian's heart. So that's all I'm saying about that. Okay. So then the other quote that I mimic Michael Lofton and John Edwards, I responded truthfully. I was defending the Pope when both John Edwards and Michael Lofton were Pope haters. I was out there alone, and you could look back maybe 5-6 years ago when they were both Pope haters. They weren't schismatics. They weren't saying the Pope wasn't the Pope like crazy Altman saying these days and Vigano. They knew the Pope was the Pope, but they just thought he was a horrible Pope, and they just bashed him. And all I did was show what the Pope actually said versus what people were saying he said. I did a video called Pope Francis derangement syndrome like 6 years ago. I did was Pope Francis a heretic like 6 years ago. And then even before that, I would talk about the Pope in positive light. It wouldn't be totally about the Pope, but I would take the Pope in context and show people, because that's how I started. I said, instead of telling people they're wrong, let me show them what's right. So I would start just making videos talking about all the wonderful things Pope Francis did and what he said. And people are like, wait a minute, I thought he said this. So then I had to respond with videos outright saying, is the Pope a heretic? Pope Francis derangement syndrome, what is that? And then John Edwards actually told me when we did our live stream that I was the one, along with his son, that steered him off the cliff. He was ready to ride off the cliff. He was ready to leave Catholicism because he was binge watching Taylor Marshall. Told me that on live stream, just on his show. You can look at it last week. He said it. I didn't say it. He said it. And I already knew this because he had reached out to me in an email years ago and said, man, I hated the first time I watched you. I hated you. I actually threw something at the computer because you got me so mad. But then I realized you were right because you were just giving me the facts. You were showing me what I thought Pope Francis said based on what Taylor Marshall said he said. And then you were showing me what he actually said. So he became a defender of the Pope. Michael Lofton I never spoke to, but I did notice he was very critical of the Pope. He sounded like a Pope hater to me. And he even admits when he first started YouTube, he was very critical of the Pope. And then when I seen him change, and the reason he said he changed, and it makes sense, is because he stopped listening to what people said the Pope said, and he started reading what the Pope said. So now he reads what the Pope said versus what people said, and he shows you the difference. So when I realized that he was defending the Pope, I started sending people his way. I started saying, oh, check out Michael Lofton. This guy's really good. And I started supporting him, saying, hey, because you want to encourage good behavior, You want to encourage people that are fighting for the truth. So that's what I did there. But if it sounds like we're mimicking them, that's ridiculous, because when I listen to the SSPX crowd, like Kennedy Hall and Taylor Marshall, it sounds like they're actually reading off the same freaking talking points from the SSPX headquarters. Those guys mimic each other all day long. They only have each other on. I have people I disagree with on my show. I go on people's shows that disagree with me. These guys just have each other back and forth. They recycle each other, And even the rad trads, even though they don't reject Vatican II and they believe Pope Francis is the Pope, they all sound like each other, like they're mimicking each other, because that's what they believe. If me and Catholic for Rednecks and Michael Lofton sound like we're mimicking each other, it's because we're reading what the Pope actually said. So we're just telling you what people are saying and what the Pope actually said, So, of course, we're saying the same thing because we're saying what the Pope actually said. So, but I know I'll get a lot of people that disagree with me on this, and that's great. Just as long as you subscribe and comment, because comment helps the algorithms. And we want to get these videos out so more people know the truth about the Catholic Church. So anyway, that's why I do what I do. I say what I say. I mean what I say. My sister used to say when I was little, she'd say, Rob, Say what you mean and mean what you say. Just don't say it mean. So that's my goal on the show, to say what I mean and mean what I say, and say it as nice as I can. Sometimes I might come across, a little rough, My North Jersey comes out of me when I get angry, when people are attacking my family, when you attack my Pope, when you lie about my Pope, you're lying about my father, you're lying about my church. I get a little angry. So, never go against the family. That's what I say. Stick with your family. If you got problems with your family, deal with it in-house. Don't put it on public display for the world to mock our family. When I say our family, I mean the one holy Catholic and apostolic church. So stay Catholic.